What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com.
Here are my DFS picks for MLB Monday, August 2nd.
These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button
And hit that bell icon
so you don't miss our new videos.
In this video, I'm going to go over my top DFS picks for today's MLB slate.
And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made.
Okay guys, we have a 7-game slate, so let's take a look at the pitcher position. Not many pitchers, or not really any stud pitchers on this slate, so you can save some salary here and go with Tyler Megill with a 5% pitching advantage over a low salary batting team, the Miami Marlins. Tyler Megill, he's only giving up a .456 OPS versus righties, and he's facing 5 righties here tonight. Now, there's no pitches versus the Marlins yet, and Tyler Megill is $8,500 FanDuel salary and $1,100 more on DraftKings. Projected at 27.8 fantasy points here tonight. He's averaging 30 fantasy points per game on the season. He has an ERA of 2.04. His record is 1-0, pitching an average of 88 pitches per game. He scored 31, 43, and 28 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Tyler Megill here versus the Miami Marlins. Okay, let's take a look at the catcher first base position. I like Omar Narvaez with a 36% batting advantage over a low salary pitcher, Bryce Wilson. Omar Narvaez is batting 23% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .705 OPS versus righties, and Bryce Wilson throws 13% worse to lefties as he does righties, giving up a .938 OPS versus lefties. There's no at-bats versus Wilson yet, and Omar Narvaez is $3,000 FanDuel salary. He's $1,500 more on DraftKings, projected at 9.8 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 8 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 0, 10, and 12 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Omar Narvaez here versus Bryce Wilson. Okay, now here's a value play for you. I like Trey Barrera with 105% batting advantage over a low salary pitcher, Ranger Suarez. Trey Barrera bats 70% better versus lefty pitchers, batting a 2.011 OPS versus lefties. And Ranger Suarez, he pitches his worst ball versus righty batters, 35% worse than his other pitches, giving up a 1.025 OPS versus righties. Now, there's no at-bats versus Suarez yet, but Trey Barrera is only $2,400 FanDuel salary, and he's only $600 more on DraftKings. So I like that price on both sites, projected at 9.5 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 7 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 3, 6, and 16 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Trey Barrera as a value play here versus Ranger Suarez. Okay, let's take a look at the second base position. I like Jean Segura batting against Josiah Gray. Jean Segura, he's batting a .761 OPS versus righties. In Josiah Gray, he pitches his worst ball versus righty batters, giving up a .992 OPS versus righties. There's no at-bats versus Gray yet, and Jean Segura is $3,100 FanDuel salary, $1,500 more on DraftKings, projected at 10.9 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 10 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 29, 6, and 0 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Gene Shigura here versus Josiah Gray. Okay, let's take a look at the third base position. I like Ty France with a 31% batting advantage over Michael Wacha. Ty France, he is batting 20% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .875 OPS versus righties, and Michael Wacha, he pitches his worst ball versus righty batters, 11% worse than his other pitches, giving up a .962 OPS versus righties. Now I like this pick because although this is a small sample size, Ty France is 3 for 3, batting a 2.333 OPS versus Wacha. Ty France is $3,000 FanDuel salary. He's $1,200 more on DraftKings, projected at 10.4 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 9 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 6, 19, and 9 fantasy points in his last 3 games. So I like Ty France here versus Michael Wacha.
Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups.
Okay, let's take a look at the shortstop position. I like Brandon Crawford with a 53% batting advantage over Taylor Widener. Brandon Crawford is batting 22% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .895 OPS versus righties, and Taylor Widener, he pitches his worst ball by far to lefty batters, 31% worse than his other pitches, giving up a .993 OPS versus lefties. Brandon Crawford is 1 for 2 with a 2.5 OPS versus Widener because that one hit was for a home run. He's $3,200 FanDuel salary, $1,500 more on DraftKings, projected at 9.2 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 12 fantasy points per game on the season. He's been on fire, scoring 13, 16, and 16 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Brandon Crawford here versus Taylor Widener. Okay, now here's a value play for you. Looks like he's only a value play on FanDuel, but I like Joey Wendell with a 21% batting advantage over Chris Flexen. Joey Wendell is batting 28% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .834 OPS versus righties, and Chris Flexen is giving up a .727 OPS versus lefties. Joey Wendell is 1 for 1 with a 2 OPS versus Flexen, and he's only $2,500 FanDuel salary. Now he's $2,400 more on DraftKings, so I love that FanDuel price. Projected at 9.3 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 9 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 12, 0, and 3 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Joey Wendell as a value play on FanDuel here versus Chris Flexen. Okay, moving on to the outfield position. I got a stud pick for you. He worked out yesterday and he's in a good spot here tonight. I like Bryce Harper with a 6% batting advantage over Josiah Gray. Bryce Harper bats 10% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .987 OPS versus righties, and Josiah Gray, he's giving up a .953 OPS versus lefties. There's no at-bats versus Gray yet, and Bryce Harper is $4,300 FanDuel salary, $1,700 more on DraftKings, projected at 12.8 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 12 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 31, 10, and 6 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Bryce Harper here versus Josiah Gray. I also like Mike Yastrzemski with a 46% batting advantage over Taylor Widener. Mike Yastrzemski is batting 15% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .915 OPS versus righties. And Taylor Widener, he throws his worst ball versus lefty batters, giving up a .993 OPS versus lefties. That's 31% worse than his other pitches. And Mike Yastrzemski is 1 for 2 with a 1 OPS versus Widener. He's $3,500 FanDuel salary, and he's only $700 more on DraftKings. Projected at 11.5 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 11 fantasy points per game on the season. He's been on fire, scoring 9, 22, and 12 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Mike Yastrzemski here versus Taylor Widener. Okay, another stud pick for you. I like Aaron Judge, batting against a low salary pitcher, Jorge Lopez. Aaron Judge is he's batting a .846 OPS versus righties, and Jorge Lopez is giving up a .843 OPS versus righties. But the reason that I like this pick is because Aaron Judge is 3 for 3 with a 4 OPS versus Lopez. 2 of those 3 hits are for home runs. He's $4,000 FanDuel salary, $800 more on DraftKings, projected at 11.8 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 11 fantasy points per game on the season, and he scored 10, 0, and 9 fantasy points in the last 3 games. And I like this pick because Vegas thinks this is going to be a high-scoring game. 9.5 runs scored in this game. That's their over-under. So a pretty nice start for Aaron Judge here tonight versus Jorge Lopez.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smickety smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.